And I agreed when Elon Musk said about 3-4 years ago that wokeness, in his opinion, and in my opinion, was the future of the end of humankind. What have we come to? God Almighty. Don't you see there's something fundamentally wrong with that?
Dan Pena has sounded the alarm, declaring that a financial tsunami, unlike anything we've seen, is poised to sweep the world into chaos.
There's a reason the big tsunami, not this chicken corona tsunami. The big motherfucker's coming. The big motherfucker's coming. And that's what I thought was going to come this last, but it didn't. We got a kind of a junior in corona.
The Bank of England's admission of narrowly avoiding bankruptcy reveals the fragile threads upon which the UK economy dangles.
When the system goes down, I'm the only one that read that the Bank of England said they came a cunt's hair away from going bankrupt in the UK in March. Am I the only one that can read? Because they don't want to send panic. You listen to YouTube, you miserable. For those of you in the UK, you almost went bankrupt, you dipshits. But you don't want, just like Nicholson said, you can't stand the truth. You can't. You don't want to hear the truth.
Dan challenges us to master the system using his unrelenting methods, promising that those who follow the steps will weather any storm.
Oh, what's wrong with you people? Jesus Christ. But it's good for us. It's good for us. I told you, I want to float up on blood, a pool of blood of all the morons. I'm just going to float to financial heaven on a pool of blood, and I can just hear the people gurgling, choking around me. Get off me. Blah, 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 and just float all the way up. That's what I dream about. Them, pull up the gangplank. I'm on board. We're on board. And if you utilize the way you're being taught, the steps, you'll have no problem. Some of you will get super, super rich. Some of you will only get rich. But all of you will be better off than when you walked in the door here, which isn't saying too much.
Post-election Britain is a ship lost at sea, directionless and besieged by turmoil, a reflection of a broader, systemic collapse.
Post-election, it's pretty screwed up. As you know, I attempted to run for, I didn't attempt, I tried hard to run for office and I got my brains beat in. And the last public talk I gave, which was a town hall in Forfar, I said all the things that they didn't want to hear. If the Liberal Party or the Labour Party, has any brains, they're going to follow this and everybody's going to hate them. Well, they're following it. You know, they said they wouldn't raise taxes and all these things they said they wouldn't do, and they're doing them. Nobody wants taxes, but nobody wants to give up any services, okay? You know, everybody thinks that the aged and the veterans should get more assistance, but where's the money come from, okay? And so it's a vicious circle. And unfortunately, in the beginning, 2-3 months ago, the Labor government said these were 5 and 10 year plans. Now they're bellying up to the bar because under scrutiny, these are 10, 20, 25, maybe never plans. And you won't, well, you will, you're a young guy. But I mean, most people won't live long enough to see the changes that are implemented. And what's gonna happen is after 4 or 5 years, they're pissed off and they're gonna call for an election, okay? They have to have an election by some sort of statute in about 5 years. And it's likely that, I'm not sure that the Tories will get back in, but they're gonna be mad at the current Prime Minister. And we were lulled into believing, because he was a former head prosecutor, that he was a hard ass. Well, I haven't seen any of that yet. And I'm not saying I won't see any of that, but the people are disappointed.
Pena spares no mercy for Scotland, calling out its citizens as blind to the realities of the impending economic reckoning.
And in the last town hall, which I got really roasted for in the newspapers, I said that, are the people up here in Scotland stupid, illiterate, or just brain dead? I said, the SNP hasn't done anything for us in 16 years, yet they're going to get reelected. Well, 121 of their seats didn't get reelected. The only 5 or 6 seats that got reelected, unfortunately, was one of them, which is what I was running in, their stronghold. But they've been saying the same crap for 15, 16, 17 years, and they haven't implemented it. Of course, nobody's held them accountable. This is the first accountability up here in Scotland that the SNP ever had. And if they hadn't caught all these people cheating, stealing, and all this other stuff, they probably wouldn't have got thrown out of office. So you really have to show somebody with the hand in the cookie jar to get unelected up here. And it's not much different down south. The English, this is the country of giving you the benefit of the doubt. Now, on a moralistic, humanistic, philanthropic point of view, that's great. I'm getting ready to, when I go to New York in a few days, to make a couple of speeches, and one of which is in diversity and, all that, okay?
You need to be careful with that then.
Oh, yeah, well, I do, but I mean, that's
you might
why.
get cancelled from that.
Yeah, well, it's not interesting, but it's interesting to me that nobody else sees it. And I had my staff in the last 2-3 days pull out all the headlines that they could find, about 10 or 12, where Walmart has just canceled their diversity program. The biggest employer of human beings on the planet.
But they're not the only big firm that's done
No,
that recently.
many more have.
Yeah.
But and so a lot of others.
So do you think the pendulum is swimming back?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you're good at your job, you get a job, and if you're not, you don't. Yeah.
And the New York Times, maybe a month ago, said wokeness is.
You don't believe that?
No. It's on its way to being, because it swung for 10, 12, 14 years from all the way to the other end.
Yeah.
He and Elon Musk share a grim warning. Wokeness is the harbinger of humanity's downfall, a distraction from the real battles of progress.
And I agreed when Elon Musk said about 3-4 years ago that wokeness, in his opinion, and in my opinion, was the future of the end of humankind. And I believe that. And now, with the overwhelming, resounding win for Trump, and I just heard on CNN, which is not a conservative station, he's likely to get almost all his appointees in, even with all the baggage they're carrying. I didn't know how to stop that. I wanted to tape it, but I wanted to get up and get ready so I wasn't late. And he's going to get all these guys in.
How long before humanity's gone then?
I don't know that. And I'm sure I said, how come nobody's worried about an asteroid in 2142? No, it's just been moved to 2182. 2182. It's going to hit us. Nobody even talks about it.
Probably because we don't feel like we'll be alive then, so it's not our problem.
Okay, well, just as you won't be alive when the world ends, when it's Armageddon. I started also watching Walking Dead or Dead Walking, or I never watched that program before. Yeah. I love it. I can just see myself putting axes in people's skulls. But anyway, because it's not going to bother you. But I asked at Oxford 10 years ago, 2015, just after I had this revelation about us being, I asked the students if you knew that no matter what we do, if we implemented all the safe havens for global warming, or the alleged global, it would be 1,000 years and we'd still have global warming. Would you be marching with a placard out in front of the USA embassy? And the little girl said, no. Why? Another stat that I may not have mentioned. I love this stat for the, not the women libbers that they used to be called, but the UN, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund came out with a study a year and a half ago that 131 years before women and men have equality in the world, in jobs. 131 years.
For 3 decades, Dan has stood at the frontier of transformation, unflinching, relentless, his methods as sharp and audacious as the man himself.
At some levels, when you take everything I say in context, which is hard, because then it's not as...
soundbitey, clickbaity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you take it in context, one, I've been doing this for 30 years. And my major theme hasn't changed, other than I've gone from free to charging. But I mean, there is a method to my madness. And my goal is to get as many people across the goal line with higher aspirations and higher goals, etc., as I can before they put dirt on me. Okay. I've just been given an extension of 3 or 4 years, which I'm very grateful for because of the Trump election. I will use it judiciously. Okay. It's not taken away from my philanthropic stuff, or it's not taken away from my charity work or my free speeches.
How many of you would like to have your kids grow up just like your parents? You know the answer, don't you? Close to zero. Because they were role models. Now, I'm not going to ask the second question. How many of you would like your kids to grow up and be like you? Allah forbid. God forbid. But being a high-performance person is a full-time job. Michael's known me over 20 years. I'm like this when I wake up in the morning to brush my teeth. I'm like this when I brush my teeth before I go to sleep. I'm like this 24/7, 365, and I've been like this for the better part of 50 years. I'm always like this.
He embodies the essence of pushing boundaries, proving that overnight success is the reward for decades of relentless innovation and unapologetic risk.
I'm always pushing the edge of the envelope. And that's why, I'm an overnight success. I've been coaching 25 and a half years, but all of a sudden I'm popular as hell, but I've been doing this for 50 years. I have the same habits today as I had 50 years ago. The exact same habits. But they're just ingrained in me. They're ingrained in me. And for those of you that have never been around the high-performance people like I just alluded to, the Warren Buffetts, Elon Musk, God rest his soul, Steve Jobs, who I happen to have known, they were like this 24/7, 365. It wasn't an act. Now, I know Michael's like this all the time, but he and I both know people that are considered gurus, that they have a stage face and they have their real face. They don't walk their talk. And part of being a high-performance person is walking your talk. Walking your talk. And I know Michael does, otherwise I wouldn't come here and assist him. Because I get a lot of invitations from a lot of different people. And almost all of them I turn down because I know the guru isn't walking his talk. The guru is being phony. The guru is being disingenuous. You think Elon Musk wants to fit in? We know the answer is no, right? You want to fit in because you had poor role models at home. Most everybody in this room is a pleaser. You want to be liked.
Suicide over Facebook likes exemplifies the moral decay of modern society, a stark reminder of how far we've fallen in the pursuit of empty validation.
When I read about that people commit because they were unliked on Facebook, it makes me sick to my stomach. How can the world get that up that because of Facebook, people are going to themselves? What have we come to? God Almighty. Don't you see there's something fundamentally wrong with that? In that regard, the Chinese, they're banning Facebook. But 98% of the high-performance people are introverts. 98% of the high-performance people on the planet, they want to be liked. 98%. We're talking, I'm at the cutting edge, the hard edge. He's not at the hard edge. He's someplace in the middle. But being liked doesn't get you a raise when you're working for whoever you're working for. Efficiency, accountability. Most people that come to seminars are there because they weren't held accountable when they were growing up. There used to be a saying when I was growing up, which is very politically incorrect now. Spare the rod and spoil the child. I discovered early on that this was my challenge. Here's me. Actually, it looks like Jason's big nose, not mine. There's me. And then I got to get my relatives to find my dreams, my goals. I got to get my own guilt. I got to get by friends. I got to get by the pessimists. I got to get by society in general, and then general fear. How am I going to do that? Well, you can't say families without saying lies. Your families are your biggest detriment. I left the United States in 1981, and I'm Hispanic. I left the familia. That's a big deal. My relatives hated me. Some still hate me. I wasn't there. But I knew I could not achieve my goals from the barrio with a familia. Impossible. How much sacrifice are you willing to make to achieve your goals?
Jeff Bezos' tale of 90-hour work weeks to achieve success underscores the brutal realities of a world that rewards endurance over empathy.
There was an interesting article written in the New York Times about 2.5, 3 years ago about Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And it talked about, a nice article, the first 2/3, and then the last third was a hatchet job. But they said that 80 hours to keep your job there, a week, 80 hours a week. 85 hours to be considered for promotion. Consider 90 hours a week to be promoted. And that wasn't a company policy. Those were rules enforced by the fellow employees. It's one of the fastest growing companies ever. I believe it touched $1 trillion in value. Jeff was the richest at $160 billion, and now he's getting a divorce. He's gonna have to cut that in half. I could have a whole seminar about divorce, but I'm not gonna do that. Because kids are not programmed for success. Why? Because your parents weren't successful. Kids don't do what parents tell them to do. They do what they see their parents do. I still work 60, 70 hours a week, and I don't even consider it working, and I haven't had to work in 35 years. But these people, you cannot not meet these people and learn. You'd have to be a bigger meathead than this audience is to not learn anything from all these people. By the way, the most prestigious president that I ever met, in my judgment, was President Nixon, Tricky Dick. He was regal.
As Dan's economic predictions have proven uncannily accurate, his voice becomes a clarion call to those brave enough to face the truth.
Now, you're not here because I made some of the great economic calls in the last 50 years. In 2014, when oil was $110 a barrel, I said, when people were saying it's going to go to 200, I said it'll go to 40 before it goes to 200. It immediately went to $26 a barrel, and it's currently at $50 a barrel, which was, I was the only one in the United States or in Europe that called the decline in oil. When I was on the Joe Rogan show, I told him how to pay for his wall with El Guapo's money. And now Ted Cruz, and now even my buddy Chuck Norris is saying it's their idea. You go back and listen to the tape of me on Joe Rogan in March of 2017. I said how to pay for the wall. Just take all the money that we confiscated. But one of the great calls I made is a year ago when Bitfuck was at $19,600. I said, it's over. Smart money, sell half, keep half. My mentees lost billions because nobody listened to me. Motivation gets you started. Good habits keep you going. I have extraordinary habits. I have the same habits I had 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. The last thing I do at night is I say my affirmations and my prayers. I fall asleep saying my prayers. Since I'm 6, 7 years old, I still say my prayers. Affirmations are the bedrock. All the guys use them. Super Olympic athletes have been using affirmations. Jim Elway back in the day, I see myself winning the Super Bowl in overtime. What he didn't see in his dreams was he was going to take him 3 Super Bowls to win the 3 Super Bowls to finally win one. But affirmations. So that's how I end my day. I begin my day in the morning when I get up. I go to my office, and my office is in the castle. We have a wing that's the business wing, and I check emails. I take some of my pills. I take a lot of pills, and I have a cup of coffee, and I prioritize which ones I'm going to answer first, some of which I'm just going to delete. This is after they've already been screened by one of my 4 assistants.